Man, I can't get this right this morning. Let's try this again. Hello and good morning, Blaze Nation. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're tuned in to our Mission Fuel Wednesdays. My name is Stephen A. Hart. I am a marketer, a content creator, podcaster, serial entrepreneur, brand strategist, and so much more. If this is your first time joining us, we just want to say thank you so very much for being here. My dear brother, Shawn Dove, and I have been putting together these Wednesday lives now for a good bit. Just want to say good morning, Shawn.
Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, my Jamaican brethren. How are you?
I am good. I'm blessed. I'm alive.
Yes, yes. I always say, when people ask me, how are you doing? I woke up, and the rest is icing on the cake. And, sometimes we have just got to, be intentional about putting things in perspective, right?
Yes.
We were just sharing, and I want to welcome our listeners and viewers to Millionaire Wednesday, Mission Fuel Wednesday. And when we talk about Mission Fuel, it's a word, it's a song, it's inspiration to help us keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
And just wanted to offer before we have our amazing guests today, right? And before we introduce our guests, just wanted just to offer a little extra mission fuel this morning for our audience to sip on for the rest of the day and for the rest of the week. And Stephen and I, we were in the green room before we came on, and we were just talking about going through challenges, balancing responsibilities, but still showing up. And lately I've been like praying for patience and endurance. And what I found out is when you pray for patience and endurance, guess what? God gives you some stuff for you to endure. He gives you some stuff to be patient about. And I wanted just to lift up a scripture from Job 23:10. But he knows the way that I take. When he has tried me, I shall come forth as pure gold. And Jonathan McReynolds and Music Molly have a song called Adulting. And that song, the first line says, when I woke up this morning, I realized everything that I was overwhelmed by was exactly what I wanted, right? And so I just wanted to offer that to our listeners and all the folks that are joining us, just for patience and endurance. And we cannot do this alone. My poem, Gold, that
Yes.
we're gold diggers, right? You know what?
Yes.
Can I just briefly read that poem?
You never have to ask me.
Okay, right. And then we're gonna. So I shared the Job 23:10 scripture, and God knows the way that you're taking, and the tests and the trials and tribulations that you may be going through, and everybody going through something. Be patient, endure, and you will come forth as pure gold. And just wanted just to share this. If ever there was a time for you to dig deep within, it is now, if only you would decide and begin. Mining your soul for your buried gold is why you are here. So dig deep and be bold. It is your purpose, it is your purpose, your divine mission. It is your calling. So just get still and listen. And you will hear an oh so sweet sound telling you where your gold can be found. And you'd be wise to not let another moment fly by, as the day will come when you will surely die. Then the question for you will resoundingly be, did you dig deep for your gold for the world to see? Mining your soul for your buried gold is why you are here. So dig deep, be bold, and I encourage everybody to be gold diggers. Dig for your gold today. And I would like to introduce our guest today, Dr. Charles S. Corprew, who is a gold digger extraordinaire. Welcome, my good brother, to Trailblazers Podcast and our Mission Fuel Wednesday. Why don't you just briefly introduce yourself to the audience, and what's your mission fuel for the day when you introduce yourself, good brother?
So I'm gonna start with that last question, right? I'm gonna start with that last question. My mission fuel is you, brother, because you have given me the mission for the day, being a gold digger, brother. My mission fuel is finding and helping people embrace what their revolutions are, dear brother, and that's that question. And everything that you just said in that poem, brother, helps people find their revolution, and that's my mission fuel right there. I'm just listening to that poem, dear brother, and I'm like, man, like I don't even need to be here today, because everything you just said is how people can think about how they get better, how they transform their lives, how they answer that one question that we think is the most thought-provoking: what's your revolution? So thank you for fueling my mission today, brother, and continue to be the brother that I know and the model that I've always looked up to. So I appreciate you. I'm just happy to be here with you and Stephen. As you said, Dr. Charles Corprew. I'm the CEO of What's Your Revolution, a wonderful lifestyle brand that asks people this question. We have a 5-year-old podcast that interviews wonderful men like you and Stephen, really seeing how you transform your lives and the world and your communities and what you're doing to really give mission fuel out to the world. I'm also, my day job is a wonderful job, and Stephen knows very well. I work for Aaron Walker,
Yes, Aaron.
and the wonderful folks at Camelback Ventures, where we have a revolution of ourselves, where we work with women and people of color who are building ventures, right? Who are going to transform our communities, make them livable, and to create generational wealth. I want to give a shout out to my sis and my colleague Kelly Salling for the wonderful work she does around creating generational wealth and generational inheritance. The work that we do there. I live a good life, Shawn and Stephen, man. I get to work at Camelback Ventures, and I get to be on a podcast that asks people what's your revolution, and hear black men talk about that revolution. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Mm. And I love being sandwiched between you and Stephen, because both of you manifest the mission mantra that we all have to become, as Black people, masters of our own media, right? And again, you are such a Renaissance man. You are an entrepreneur, educator, health and wellness practitioner. And I just don't know where to begin, but I'm going to start with I think the bullseye or the center of your passion and work. What's your revolution, right? And you've been doing this for 5 years, 120 episodes. What's the genesis of that question? What's your revolution? And share with our audience what you have learned over these 5 years hosting this podcast.
No, I appreciate that. There's a long-winded answer to that first question. What's the genesis of this? But the short answer is, I was graduating from Tulane in 2011, getting my PhD. My wonderful mentor, Michael Cunningham, and I were sharing some time together. And Thomas Friedman, New York Times columnist, was the keynote speaker that day at Tulane's graduation. And he wove what was going on in the Arab Spring to what was going on in America at that time. If you remember 2011, the students had basically created a revolution in Tahrir Square in Egypt and all over the Middle East. They wanted change. They wanted democracy. But Tom Friedman said, we were still going through a recession, and Barack Obama, our wonderful president, was trying to lead us out. And he said to us, it's going to be one of the worst times for you to come out of school to go look for a job. Jobs were sparse at that time, scarce. But he said it's going to be a wonderful time for you to create something. Think about this, your entrepreneur revolution. He said, think about the students in Tahrir Square who wanted to create something different in their lives. Think about Rosa Parks and Dr. Martin Luther King, how they saw the necessities that were happening in their life. They needed innovation. Rosa Parks sat down on a bus, right? And we think about what that small movement did right there. It catalyzed a movement. He said, think about what you can do with your lives, right? Small things that you can do that can transform a community, that can transform people, that can transform a world. And I kept hearing revolution in my mind, and I kept saying, well, Charles, what's your revolution?
Mm.
And I had been teaching. I had, gone to Tulane, spent a wonderful season in New Orleans for 5.5 years. I was going to be a professor at Loyola, and I was like, my revolution here is to make sure that Black boys can go to school and get the education that they needed to thrive and be successful, not to just go and graduate, but to be successful and thrive. And I knew as a teacher that we hadn't had those opportunities.
Mm.
In the school system where I had come from, there were 11 high schools. And when I left in 2005, of those 11 high schools, only 3 young Black boys had graduated with honors. That was a problem for me. I wanted to make sure that I could walk into any school division around the country and say, hey, let's look at what you've got and let's look at what we can do. So my revolution has always been that, but I wanted to ask other people. So I started asking my students when they would come in for advisory, what's your revolution? Because they were going to go out into the world. They were going to find something. How were they going to schedule their classes? What were they going to take to learn so they could go out in the world? And it just spiraled, Shawn and Stephen. It spiraled. There was a brother called Dr. Vibe that we started doing a show called H2H, Dr. Vibe, right? We started doing H2H on Mondays. He saw an article I wrote. We did that for 2 years. And, you think about sometimes pieces just keep coming for you, right? Those planks, as you step off one ledge, you realize, how am I going to do this? The other plank comes in. And so in New Orleans, my wonderful friend Susan Henry heard the H2H show. And she said, I want you to come to WBOK and start the What's Your Revolution show. We did that for 3 years. Unfortunately, WBOK went under, and we said, we've got something. And it just kept going. And now we have a wonderful podcast we've been doing for 5 years. It just keeps growing. But that's how we got to that question, and that's how it's kept going, brother.
Wow. Talk about endurance and perseverance. As I'm listening to you tell the story, Charles, I'm just thinking, do not despise the day of humble beginnings. I know Dr. Vibe and what he's doing, and this is the importance of connecting with like-minded folks. And, when I was growing up and, we were running through playgrounds, sometimes you come across a fence and you was asking, I need a boost. You put your hand together and you put your foot and you lift somebody up and you give them a boost, and then they pull you over the fence. And we know there's some exciting news about you recently inking a deal, right? For tell us about that, the next season for What's Your Revolution?
And I appreciate that. Again, I'm going to keep coming back to this theme of, right, you're stepping off the ledge, and then something else comes in. That I-beam comes in, and so wonderful friends, connections like you and Stephen. My good friend Natalie Burke, who is the CEO of Common Health Action in Washington, D.C., who is a juggernaut herself in the work around health equity. We've been good friends for about 10 years now. And she called me up and she said, Charles, there's a streaming service that is going to begin, and they're looking for talent. They're looking for talent like you. And I want you to just talk to the folks. And so I began a conversation with Brown Box TV. Brown Box TV will launch in January. It's for us, by us. It is content creators of color who are creating media and information and technology that is, right? Think about that. And for the What's Your Revolution show to be on that, to be one of the first curators of content that allows people to see this vast community of Black men of color, talking about the great work that they're doing. So we are excited about this collaboration with Brown Box TV and the wonderful work that they're doing. Natalie Williams is the CEO. Don Napoleon, one of my frat brothers, is the director of production. Wonderful team. It's just a wonderful opportunity to grow this message of What's Your Revolution out to a larger audience that we can affect change, right? I think about revolution, not of the bloody revolution in the streets, but what's inside of us, Shawn? You think about this mission and fuel, this gold digging, as you said, right? Mining our gold, right? Mining our gold. I remember you were on the show, right? You think about that self-awareness. Revolution happens when we can mine our gold and bring it out to the world.
Well, so congratulations for that. And, this whole notion of having someone believe in you and take a risk, right? So you're doing the work, right? You are being entrepreneurial, right? The title of the Today Show is fueling, your entrepreneurial vision, right? Or mission fuel for your entrepreneurial vision, and somebody just believed in you, right? And uh, much of your a day job, right? Entails that, right? At Camelback Ventures, investing in entrepreneurs during the early stage and accelerating. Talk a little bit about that work, what you're seeing, what you're learning, and for entrepreneurs that are in the startup phase of their work, right? They may just be, they may just woke up with an idea this morning. What insights? What are you learning during this startup phase in your work at Camelback?
No worries. Brother, I appreciate that. I always want to say that genius is equally distributed, opportunity is not. And what we do as Camelback is that we provide that opportunity. And thinking about women and people of color. Aaron Walker, as you know, is our wonderful CEO, thought about his revolution almost 7 years ago, and thinking about what it means for women and people of color to have the opportunity to bring their ideas to the forefront, right? To think about what our communities, who do we want in our communities? What are the technologies that we want in our communities that are going to help us thrive? Right? And you wake up with that idea, right? You dig for your goal, you mine your gold, and that idea is to bring something that is going to serve the people. I think about Deshante Parks with 1,000 more. I think about Shantae Elliott with Tassel Turn. Tassel Turn is thinking about how to help foster students, right, move through the system where they can then come out and go and get a great education.
Mm.
Deshante Parks with 1,000 more. I think about the election here in Virginia that happened last night. We as an electorate need to be informed. And I stand on this for a second. We need to be informed. How do we get out the vote? How do we understand what policies are actually important to us? 1,000 more is that opportunity where right there in the palm of your hand, Shawn and Stephen,
Mhm.
I can know what policies are impacting me as a person, that are impacting my communities, that are impacting the state. I can then reach out to my policymakers and say, this is how I feel. I can donate to advocacy organizations that are fostering, right, advocacy around the policies that are important to me. We've got to get back into the electorate and be participants as a part of this process. I think about Julio Rivera with Liberate, right? You think about the pandemic that we've been going through. How do we find self-care and meditation and self-awareness and relief? Liberate is that application for us, by us, that
Mm.
meditation that is created for us in these trying times that is started by a person of color. That's what we do at Camelback. And our role, I won't say because we are a wonderful team, is that we get to invest time, energy, patience, love, right? And sometimes, right, our own money back into entrepreneurs who dug very hard to find their goal and say, how do I do this? How do I bring this to the masses? Because only 2% of funding goes to Black women, of VC funding. And I know because I'm on the phones with VCs, I am trying my best to say, look, invest in us. But here's the other thing, Shawn and Stephen. We've got to be able to invest in our own as well.
Mhm.
That's the thing. If we're going to create generational wealth, it's not in the traditional means that we've thought about as Black folks. We've got to figure out how we invest our time and energy into each other and not be afraid of that, because that's the opportunity that we're missing. And the other side is actually investing in each other and then creating more opportunities for themselves to create wealth.
Mm. What opportunity? And Stephen will jump in and whenever he wants to, but just talking about investing, I saw a report yesterday that a number of years ago, Kobe Bryant invested $6 million into I think it was body armor, right? Is the company, and it went public yesterday, or someone acquired it, and that $6 million that he invested turned into $400 million, right? I would say overnight, but it wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
And while we all don't have the scale and capacity to invest in $6 million. But talk a little bit about, because you're in the VC space, investing in Black entrepreneurs, women of color. What can we as everyday leaders and professionals and entrepreneurs do to invest, to support Black entrepreneurs? What are the opportunities for us?
That's a great question. So one, I first want to say that I am not an expert to give expert investing advice. I want to put that out there. But I want to make sure that we understand that there are certain areas that are really, really important to us that we're not particularly talking about in the masses. Health tech, right? Think about longevity. Thinking about the problems that are hampering our lifespan, particularly for men of color. And how do we invest in technology and businesses that are creating opportunities for us to live longer? I think about this. Shawn and I both, are in our 50s. Stephen, you look really, really young, brother. So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna assume. Black don't crack.
44.
44. But I'm watching my matriarch, and his deterioration through Alzheimer's. So how are we thinking about investing in technologies that are going to help communities of color mitigate some of the diseases, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, things like that are mitigating our ability to live a fruitful life, right? Think about not only that, but I'm watching my mother having to take care of my father. So her life, right, is being lessened because she's the caregiver. We're now both the caregivers for my father. So how are we investing in early, right, education and literacy and technology, right, that allows us to be ample in our longevity stages? So, health tech, right, longevity technology that educates and allows us to find opportunities to get in, to educate ourselves, to find doctors who really understand who we are. So interesting, I want to buy Black, I want to be served Black. Right. I want this. So I'm looking for directories. I'm looking for opportunities to make sure that the work that is being done for me and serves me is done by people that look like me. And so that's where I'm investing. And that's where I'm trying to get people to invest as well. That's what we do at Camelback. But if I'm making an investment now, I'm thinking about what is health and how does that impact how I'm going to live my future. And that is important. That is very, very important to me. Around also is doing the due diligence around what a good company looks like. If you're investing in the market, you're thinking about that. What does a good company look like? Are they making returns year over year, quarter over quarter, month over month? Do they have a great CEO? Do they have a great team?
Yeah.
One thing that we have to do is really learn in the due diligence about what's their value proposition? Are their mission and values aligned with who we are? And do they have a great team and great product that is out in the world that actually has the ability to build revenue? Those are the things that we look for, and understanding that. What does revenue look like? And do they have longevity? Can they make revenue 3, 5, 10 years from now? Do they think about what's the pivot for them and what's the additional line of revenue that they can generate? One of my favorite founders is Norma Palrez with Connecti. It is a parent engagement application that transforms language into 120 different languages. Think about this, Shawn and Stephen. I walk into a school division. I'm Latinx, right? I haven't spoken the language as well as I need to, but I need to get my child engaged in the classroom. How do I do that? Well, Connecti allows me to be engaged because it allows me to find information and translate it into 120 different languages.
Wow.
Think about the revolution that has. I can engage now as I learn or become a part of this and still hold on to my ancestors, but help my child engage in the process. That's revolutionary. And so that's what I'm thinking about.
I wanted to jump in. Earlier you had said, as you step off one plank, another one appears. To that, I paraphrase a bit, but this week I've been talking a bit. On Monday, I was helping our community engage in the questions that they're asking themselves, that I'm asking myself, and reframing, the what ifs that consume us. in terms of, instead of saying, what could go wrong,
Right.
to reframe, to ask ourselves what could go right if we take certain steps, if we come outside of our comfort zone. And at the top of the call, Shawn talked about, us in the green room dealing with the mental challenges that come up day to day. I can't tell you that I woke up this morning feeling energized, right? I literally, the thing that got me off the bed was saying, let's see what happens this morning, right? And let's see what happens is something that, I am leveraging, right? That phrase I've leveraged several weeks now to energize me to push, right? In different areas of work. And I'm mentally challenged in this season, personally. But I still find a way, right? I'm still pushing through this season. I'm not going to tell you that it's flowery and it's, everything that I would love, but I'm pushing through it. I'm seeing progress. What's your advice? What's your thoughts to budding entrepreneurs, to the leaders tuning in, to have the confidence, to have the mental strength to step off that one plank, knowing another one's going to appear?
Go jump off the top of a mountain. I say that, Stephen, because prior to last Monday, I was in that place where you were. And I have a good friend that I travel with, Derek Greenfield. And Derek always challenges me to do something when we travel that is completely out of my comfort zone, And if my mother is listening right now, I didn't tell her this because she's a worrier. And sometimes when we get into our comfort zone, right, we stay there. It's comfortable. It feels good. It's all warm and cozy. I started to put on a cardigan this morning. It's a little chilly here in Virginia, right? You get comfortable, right? And that comfort doesn't allow you to grow. And so Derek said to me, he said, just follow me. And usually following Derek is like, oh, what? And so we got into a truck, and I couldn't understand the language. And the guy was like, we're going up. And we just kept going up. We kept going up. And I was like, where are we going? And he said, I'm not going to tell you. It's a surprise. We just kept going up. So we're at the top of the hill. And these guys come out with parachutes. And I'm looking. I was like, and Stephen and Shawn, the truck leaves.
One way down, huh?
Right. The truck leaves and waves. And there are two guys with parachutes, and Derek looks at me. He's like, "This is how we get down." Prior to that, I was tired. I was exhausted. I've been trying to juggle between Camelback and What's Your Revolution and all the things that come along with running your venture and what many of our entrepreneurs are doing. They're running their ventures and they're trying to make ends meet, right? Or they've got two passions and they're burned out. And they've been trying to find a comfort zone. And so I was like, I'm tired. Like you were, Stephen, I'm tired. Got on this parachute, right? And what the guide said was, just keep running. And I'm like, but if I keep running, you're
gonna run out of ground.
I'm gonna fall off. He's like, trust me. Just keep running. And so I'm holding on, and I start running. And all of a sudden, and I got kind of emotional. All of a sudden, right? I'm running, and I'm not falling. Like all of a sudden, the wind just picks me up, and right? And then the world just opens up for me, Shawn, right? I see it from a different place. Right? And I'm seeing the beauty of the world from a different perspective because I kept running. And the wind lifted me up, and now I'm seeing all of the Dominican Republic in a different space. And I relaxed. The fear is gone. And I'm holding this camera, like, don't drop this camera. but I'm seeing the beauty of the world. I'm seeing the forestry. I'm seeing the waterfalls. I'm seeing, right? I'm 8,000 feet up, but I'm not rushing. And there's a parachute holding me, and now I'm gliding. So my answer to your question, Shawn and Steve, is that sometimes you, even though you're tired, you got to keep running, because at some point the wind is going to lift you up and you're going to see something different. And when I got on the ground, I cried. I let go. And I cried like a little baby, because I've been holding on so much. And in those moments, because just in that, I kept running, and I said, I was able to let go. And so this week when I come back to work, I'm fresher. My mind is sharper. Find a way to keep running and find the wings that you need to move you through this space and see the world differently. That's how.
That right there is a message, and I'm like tearing up over here. I appreciate that. I appreciate that word. I received that word. I know I needed that word right here and right now. Appreciate that.
That's a golden parachute for gold diggers right there, right? And I wanted to stay there for a moment. And Charles, just thank you for that story, man. And we have talked about this in our conversations around just the mental health and our well-being. And, you know, from the outside, it may seem, you know, swashbuckling entrepreneur, very sexy and flashy, and you know, you invest in entrepreneurs, you are an entrepreneur. You know, fueling your entrepreneurial revolution can be hard, emotionally taxing, insomnia. Talk some more about, you know, specifically, you know, taking care of our mental health and those strategies, because some folks are jumping off of mountains without a parachute.
That is true.
If the truth be told, right? And what can someone that's listening today, who's like standing on that edge, you know, a word for them about their well-being, their mental health?
It's a great question, Shawn. As a practitioner, as a PhD in psychological science, mental health is key. If we are not in a space where we can fully function and thrive, we're starving. And one of the strategies that I think that is key as an entrepreneur is, you talk about this, Shawn, is finding your tribe of people. Entrepreneurship can be extremely lonely. And one of the things that we've done at Camelback is to think about, once you leave our fellowship, we're not casting you off into the world and say, go do this on your own. It is Camelback for life. It is #Camelback Fab. So the one first strategy I tell you is, as an entrepreneur, when you're thinking about your mental health, is to find other entrepreneurs in this space, because they are struggling too. And have that ability to talk through what it means to go through these periods of times, those low points, those points where you think that maybe I'm going to shutter this, and finding that community. Because you think about longevity, you think about the opportunity to be in space, to hear others talk about this, and then to provide, right, some of your gold to them. Oftentimes when I get around with my frat brothers, or when I get around with other entrepreneurs, or when I get around with other investors, that ability to talk through that, with the vulnerability of it all, I know that's the dreaded V word around us, but the vulnerability of talking about what it means to be an entrepreneur, and the issues and pain that we go through, often is uplifting. The second strategy, if you have the means, right? If you have the means, find therapeutic measures. Find the ability to talk to a therapist, because there may be some underlying things that entrepreneurship is one thing, but there may be some other underlying things that have not been addressed. And I am huge. I am huge, and as a practitioner, right, in the space and thinking about, I can't bring to my employees or my community or my customers if I can't figure out at the bottom level what's impacting me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get on my show, dear brothers, and talk about relationships and relationship success and that being my revolution if I can't go down and really realize that why I'm here in this single hood of 50 is because there was some trauma way back when that stops me right here when I get in this space,
Mm-hmm.
right? That just stops. And I needed to figure that out. I needed to say, I need to say this out loud, dear brothers, that I have a fear of commitment.
Mm.
And why I can't be successful. But that only happens in therapy.
Mm.
That only happens in therapy. And I think the third strategy is really, really think about, do you need to take some time away from your venture? Because oftentimes we get so mired in it is that we lose sight of who we are. We've got to make this work.
Mm.
And some of the best times, right, is taking time away, a sabbatical.
Mm.
What does that look like? I took 10 days away from Camelback. It was only 10 days. But I didn't open my computer. I didn't hardly got on Slack. I didn't talk to anybody from work. I just took time away from it to allow my mind to rest.
Mm.
And sometimes it is that rest period, allowing the mind to not be on Zoom, to not think about the 1 million things that we have to make decisions, because decision fatigue is a real thing. Allow the mind to sit back, because you can come back even greater if you take that. And it can be a month. One of the things that Julio Rivera Libere does is that he takes time for himself.
Mm.
And I applaud that. I applaud that. I get an email where he says, you know what, I'm taking time for rest.
Mhm.
So those are my 3 strategies. There are more, but I think we think about that. Community, therapeutic measures, and rest. And I think the last thing is having a person, one person, and you can have more, but one person who is there with you through this revolution, through this journey. One person. It could be your mother, your father, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever that believes solely in what you're doing, that can show up for you whenever. I got home from this trip. I walked in. There was food in my refrigerator.
Mm. My
My house was clean. There was a note, right? I can't wait to see you.
Mm.
That one person, right? When all else fails, if you got that one person, it changes everything.
Mm.
Mm.
That's so powerful, man. Love you, brother.
I love you, brother.
For just, how you show up, and when I'm in your presence and how I leave, right? Elevated, right? And part of your work is, you're an accelerator for entrepreneurs and business, but you're also an elevator. And we talked about the V word of being vulnerable. And I'm just so grateful that I've come of age in an era when Black men increasingly can come to each other and say that I'm hurting, say that I need help, that it's okay to cry, right? You talked about shedding tears, right? Sometimes what holds us back is this steely exterior, this sense of masculinity. I can't show a vulnerability because that's a sign of weakness, right? I was on a call yesterday. We were talking about, vulnerability is a strength, right? And I'm just grateful for you elevating that, right? And so there was the V word of vulnerability. I want you to talk about a little bit the F word that inherently comes with risk taking, entrepreneurship, and that's failure, right? And what I have has come crystal clear to me over the last 2 years is, if you can reframe your seeming failure, you can reframe your future and our relationship as leaders and entrepreneurs with failure. Talk to us a little bit about the F word.
So you're hitting on it today. And as you were talking, I'm thinking about when you were a child, right? Your whole job as a little baby is to do what? Is to stand up. How many times as a child, you're crawling on the floor, you pick up, you try to hold on the table, you fall down, right? Your whole goal is to stand up to try to walk, because walking leads you to the rest of your life, right? For those, right? For those that have that ability, right? Movement. Let me make this even more equitable. Movement will lead you to the rest of your life. Children never think about, well, I fell down one time, I'm not going to get back up. We keep constantly trying to do that because because here's the thing, Shawn and Stephen, every day we are encouraged by the people who love us to stand up, to move. Whatever it is for us is to move. We want to get you moving, right? Wherever you are on the spectrum, there are people encouraging you to move. But at some point in our lives, right? Some point we failed and there wasn't somebody in our ear to say, keep getting back up. We got some failure and we began to see ourselves in a different perspective, and we internalize that there's something wrong with us. But the greatest innovators, the greatest entrepreneurs are the ones to say, I failed time and time again, and I kept getting back up. I kept thinking about myself as a child. And I kept creating. And I kept hearing in that voice that you can do this. Just keep moving. Just keep running. And so as I think about this, because Aaron will tell you this, Camelback wasn't the first venture, right? And we're successful. We've grown exponentially. We have large investors who are thinking about the great work we do at Camelback Ventures. But Aaron will tell you there were 2 ventures before Camelback Ventures that failed. And if it wasn't, and our fellows will tell you that if it wasn't for Aaron Walker, they wouldn't be in the places that they are now. Our staff will tell you that we would not be in the places that we are now if it wasn't because Aaron Walker said, well, I gave up on my 2 ventures, and so I'm not going back. I have created wealth because of Aaron Walker. Let me say that again. I have created wealth because of Aaron Walker, because he decided to push further. He decided to keep running. My colleagues have created wealth. My sis Kelly Solly just bought her house. I bought a duplex last year. Tanya Dahl, we've all been able to buy things, to create wealth, because he said, I'm going to keep running. This is not just about you. When you think about creating, when you're solving a problem, when you're thinking about the value proposition of your organization and it's not working, it's not about you. It's about the people that you serve. And if you really understand those people, if you really truly understand your customer, your failures will turn into success. But that's where it starts. You will fail, and you will fail time and time again if you don't understand the people that you serve. Stephen, you have a wonderful, wonderful audience. People love the Trailblazer.fm show. But you've created and you listen to your people. And time again, people tune in. You can tell me about how this started. You can tell me about your failures, but you kept running. And that's why we're here. Think about that. Think about yourself as a child every day. Figure out how to pick yourself up and who you need to be in your ear to say, you can do this.
Stephen yesterday tweeted one line, somebody needs you today.
Mhm.
And I often remind folks that somebody that you don't even know is rising up in their leadership calling only because they are watching you rise up in yours. And sometimes that rising up comes after a falling down.
Mhm.
And as we are rising into this new season with What's Your Revolution, and just want to remind folks that it's going to be on a Black owned streaming service, Black Box TV, right?
Mhm.
Share a little bit about the audience about the broader vision for it, and what can people do today to support the vision and the evolution and the revolution of What's Your Revolution TV.
Man, you're like Pedro Martinez right here today. You know, you know what I'm saying? I'm just standing up here like Big Papi, ready to knock it, ready to knock it out. One of the things that as you think about this, there are people out there with a revolution, John. I want to talk to them. I want to highlight them. I want the world to hear their stories around how they've transformed their lives, how that transforming of their lives transformed their households, how they transformed their communities, how it then transformed the world. Those are the people that I want to talk to because they have products, they have services, they have dreams, they have stories that will allow others to say, well, damn, what's my revolution? As you
Mm.
said, it's out there. So I want to talk to people, right, who have stories, who have wonderful, wonderful stories of transformation. Who said, I was down here, I failed time and time again, but then realized that in my failures, I can provide seeds for other people to grow.
Mm.
Those are the people that I want to talk to. And if you have a product or service that you want highlighted on the show that you think resonates with our mission, we also want to talk to you. We want to highlight we want to partner with you. So that's one of the things that we're looking for is who can we be in partnership with to highlight and elevate their work as advertisers, as sponsors, as overall name collaborators with us to be a part of this brand, because that's the revolution. That's the opportunity to highlight all of this work that we're doing together.
So I may not have 6 million like Kobe did to invest in a body armor, right? But I want to scrape something together to invest in your vision, right? To invest a seed in What's Your Revolution vision. And oh man, you have blessed us today,
Yes.
and I'm keeping an eye on the time. This is an hour of power, but just on this whole investing aspect, and we know that for Black entrepreneurs, women of color entrepreneurs, access to capital is the biggest barrier to growth, sustainability. In your work, both as an entrepreneur and also at Camelback Ventures, what are some creative ways that entrepreneurs can access capital that may not be traditional, but should be legal?
Yeah.
Not legal.
One of the things that we've seen really take hold for early stage investors is crowdfunding. And thinking about that, right? You have GoFundMe's. There's a wonderful organization called Republic in New York that does large crowdfunding for entrepreneurs. They want them to be a little bit more established. But thinking about that, right? Thinking crowdfunding is an opportunity to bring smaller investments, but smaller investments into a larger pool of money to invest in entrepreneurs. Oftentimes there are barriers for if you don't meet the criteria, the government's criteria, IRS's criteria to be an angel investor. Sometimes you're locked out of the process. it is a very inequitable process. But think about crowdfunding as an opportunity to pool money together to invest in early stage entrepreneurs. And so a couple of years ago, I worked with an investor who has a wonderful application, and he crowdfunded. Each of us got a certain percentage of equity. Now, when that company goes public or is bought out, that equity is then sold. That equity is then matured, and I get my equity back, and hopefully there's a return. There's an X amount of return. So I think that's one of the things, right? If you are an accredited investor, where you have the opportunity, and I don't want to get into what an accredited investor is, please Google that. There are opportunities to think about, how can I invest in the entrepreneurs at Camelback Ventures? How can I bring other investors that look like me into opportunities at Camelback Ventures, or other accelerators and venture capital firms that have entrepreneurs that look like us? And so that's the thing. I think we have to begin to have these conversations, because I'm seeing venture capital firms that look like us that are being started, and they're bringing in smaller investors into larger pools of investing. We also have to think, if you have the ability to be an accredited investor, and you have 5 friends who are not at that level that can pool their money, you can then work with them to invest that money. We have to stop being afraid to work together to then create wealth. There are creative ways to do this, but we have to make sure that we are collaborating. And if somebody is on a different rung, we have to lift as we climb. And that is important. That is important, because the only way that we continue to move as a collective is that as we move to different rungs, we make sure that we look back and we keep lifting. We keep providing those I-beams for someone else. Because guess what? Someone's got to push that I-beam in place for you to step into. Think about that. That I-beam, there's someone on the wrench, we'll call on the winch, that's moving that I-beam in place. We got to have somebody there that looks like us.
Wow. Thank you. And before I turn it over to Stephen to close us, I had one last question. Charles, Dr. Charles Corprew, right? Thank you for just percolating my revolution within today, right? Because I am more accelerated than I was an hour ago. Brother Didier Sylvain, who is an executive coach, life coach, he often asks this question during his engagements, and I'm going to ask you Didier's question. What do you want to be known for?
I want to be known as a man who did his work. And I say that is that when a man does his work, he can show up in the world differently. When he does that internal work. I haven't always been the man that I am right now. And I can look back and say the mistakes and missteps that I made, the people that I've hurt, and I don't want to be that person anymore. And so when they're resting over me, I want people to say he did his work. That he showed up for me as a friend, as a partner, as a lover, as a son, as a mentor, as a CEO, as a community member, as someone who did his work so I could show up for the world and be a beacon of light for someone who could come behind me because I had done the work, and I could tell the story of that work, Shawn and Stephen, and it informs somebody's revolution to transform their lives.
Yes.
That's what I want people to say. That's what I want to be known for, is someone who did his work.
Wow. I'm so blessed today by your words. You have no idea how much I needed to hear what you shared today. And I feel that energy coming from the comments. And Blaze Nation, for those of you still rocking with us on the live, show some love in the comments for Dr. Charles. And, I just acknowledge you. I appreciate you for the work you're doing. You talk about impact. Listen, you are impacting people that are gonna, have an impact on their own communities today and for generations to come. And I'm happy that this morning I was obedient to showing up, right? And for being here and allowing you to impact our community. So thank you so very much. As we close up, I wanted to ask you a question I ask at the end of every episode. And that's, what's one action we should take as we come away from this call? What's one action we should take this week that is going to help us to blaze our trail?
Reach out to someone that you haven't talked to in a long time. Someone that gave you life, and someone that gave you life in a previous time, in a previous season. Reach out to them. Tell them where you are in your life. See where they are in their lives and how you can bring them back into your life. Because oftentimes those people that we have grown distant are the ones that seeded us so much in a previous life that we need to reconnect with. Find that person, or find those people that you can reconnect with, and continue to build that time and community with them. They are precious people in our lives that we've lost contact with. Reach back out to them. Find them in your heart, and even apologize for maybe a misstep or a mistake. It will allow you to show up differently for each other. So that's how I ask for people to do. Reach back out.
Love it.
Wow, that's a healing word right there.
How can we stay connected to you?
Please, soundcloud.com, What's Your Revolution, to listen to the show. It's on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Google. WY Revolution is our website. You can find us on social media at What's Your Revolution, Facebook and Instagram, or you can always email me at ccorprew@WY Revolution. I would love to hear from you all, see how you're doing and how I can help you fulfill your revolutions. And again, we're looking for folks who we can partner with, that we can highlight, that we can talk to really highlight how you're impacting and what's your revolution.
Ooh, man, you have encouraged me so much. Blaze Nation, go out today, go rise above, go way beyond, and keep blazing your trail. Join us back here on Friday morning, bright and early at 8:30 a.m. I'll be having another amazing conversation. Thank you again, brothers. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.